Welcome to Coffee and Pizza. I hope you can enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Pizza. And today we have some very special guests. They're Harley Kimball, and he is the co-founder of Bob Bounty Village. So he's working today at HackerOne. Who knows in the future? Thank you very much for coming, Harley. It's my pleasure to have someone like you here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, Harley. For some people maybe doesn't know you, and we are discovering about you during the conversation. But if someone doesn't know you and you can share with him like three highlights of your life, what can be?
Three highlights. Oh wow. Well, I mean, I definitely, I guess I would say I'm a hacker. I'm a community manager. I work at HackerOne, and I founded or co-founded the Bug Bounty Village at DEFCON last year. This will be our second year coming back. I guess if I had to throw in one more, I'm starting up a new project, which is like a bug bounty newsletter, and so that is coming soon.
That's very cool. We will stay tuned about because I believe like can be very interesting topics inside. In other hand, if someone doesn't know you, and something I like to start with my guests is from the beginning, and starting from the beginning, from where are you coming from?
Yeah, I currently live in Portland, Oregon, which is in the U.S. It's like Pacific Northwest of the U.S.
And when I was thinking in Oregon, I believe it's like in the middle of nowhere. What are you doing there when you were younger?
It's not actually, yeah. It's like in the West Coast. Portland's a pretty big city, so it's quite nice actually. Lots of nature, but also not quite like middle of nowhere in the sense that like there's lots of skylines, big concerts, things like that.
Yeah, but maybe for you it's different, but for me because I'm European. You know, when I see like the map to compare Europe with the United States, like wow, like this is a small place, small place. If you could do the comparison in the map, right? But when you see Texas, it's the same size of Spain. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, Texas is a whole different world.
And okay, one of the things that I believe is interesting for some people is like, how was when you was younger? Like, what was your hobbies? You was a kid like go to the school, like have problems, have bullying, and what made you to discover cybersecurity? These kind of things. You know, I want to know about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I mean, I got into this cybersecurity world when I was like 14. When I was 14, like I knew I wanted to be a hacker. It started for me as I was playing this game online. I used to game quite a bit. For a while, I was doing like competitive Halo and stuff like that, and so that was kind of before I got into hacking. But when I was 14, I was playing this game, and this dude hit me up and he's like, hey, let's go fight this boss together, like add me in Skype and we'll chat. And, this is before Discord, right? So we were using Skype. So we're chatting here, and long story short, he ends up dropping a phishing link into the chat. And this is like, I don't know, 2010, so phishing wasn't quite as prevalent as it is today. So I was looking at it, and I had never seen a phishing link before, but I opened the webpage and I'm noticing some discrepancies. Like in the footer, the copyright year was like a year out of date. It said like .tk instead of .com. There was like a broken image on the page. Like there were just like all these like weird little things that didn't seem right. And so I was immediately intrigued, and I was like, what is this? You can't just clone a website, can you? Like, I don't know. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So, I type in like a fake username and password, and it pretends to log me in. And so I'm like, okay, this is amazing. And so I start begging the dude. I'm like, you got to teach me how to do this. Like, you got to teach me. So he just blocks me, right? Like, I never hear from him again. And so I spend the next 2 weeks after school just going home, Googling how to make phishing website. And, I start playing around with that and discover the world of, like remote Trojans and like all kinds of stuff that I just start playing with. Very much script kiddie, didn't know what I was doing. But I thought it was the coolest thing, and pranking my friends, doing all that kind of stuff. So that's how I got into this world. And when I found out that there was a community college near me that had a cybersecurity degree program, like immediately I was like, I think that's what I want to do, because I looked at the syllabus and they had this ethical hacking course, and so I was like, oh sweet, like this will teach me to actually understand what I'm doing. So I actually reached out to the instructor at this community college, and he let me sit in on a couple classes. Like while I was still in high school, he let me sit in on a couple of the college classes, and it just kind of solidified like this is what I want to do.
The things here is like one the first thing coming into my mind is like how what you mean like your first approach to cybersecurity was from the create phishing website?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I always thought I was always intrigued by the hacking side of things for sure.
But this is, we can say, is not really white hat hacking or something like that. So
No, I mean, it definitely wasn't right. Like this guy was definitely trying to act as a black hat and hack me and steal my money in the game. And I just thought it was cool. I don't know, like it was just super intriguing. So I wanted to know how to do it myself. And obviously, as I progressed and got older, I realized like that's when I learned about bug bounty and penetration testing, and like you can actually make a career out of these things. And so that's when I really wanted to take it serious. But at the time, it was just a cool little, I guess, like prank that you can pull on your friends and stuff.
yes, something like, "Hey, you hacked me. I want to do it again because I want to learn how you did." Right?
Exactly.
That's so very cool. But one of the things you mentioned, like, it's so funny because many times we talk like in the despective way to the script kiddies, but the people forget like maybe 80 or 90% of the hacks happens in the companies come from script kiddies. Then I believe like we need to start to thinking a little bit about these kids is like script kiddies, but these things of script kiddies, like where is where is the point? Like this is good or it's bad? Like because in my opinion and from the perspective you are sharing with us, it's like okay, you was hacked, but this for you was cool. Then most of the companies was hacked for script kiddies. I don't know if your experience is something like you were saying, because when I was inside of this kind of groups of criminals, we can say better than script kiddies, and I learned a lot of tools no one knows about, like tools for SQL injection, tools for many kind of things we are doing in bug bounty today using Burp Suite or using like Kaido. The best is Kaido in my point of view, but Burp Suite is very well. And, and one of the things is like, okay, everything we are doing manually, you have tools in the black market for doing it automatic. And what do you think about that? Do you have some experience about these kind of tools, or you was doing some research about that?
I mean, I've definitely seen, there's definitely tools like marketplaces that you can go out and buy subscriptions to like get access to a lot of these tools that just kind of make it point click easy. Um, and so like I think that the world that we live in is really interesting because I think a lot of people, like and especially young people that are interested in this stuff, they can get started and they can start doing a lot of damage like really, really quickly without having to sit there and know how to program and create these tools themselves. And so I think that it's really just made cybersecurity even more important, and it's made a lot of the things that we do in the white hat community and the ethical hacking world so much more important because um, by us uncovering a lot of these holes and hopefully getting them reported so companies can fix them, it's gonna make it a lot harder for people to actually be able to leverage these tools that they can buy access to. Yeah, and I actually think, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about AI at some point in this conversation, but I
So I
actually think
agree.
like the world of AI and how much it's progressed these past couple years have really just kind of added to this problem and made it 10 times worse. Like I'm not a very good, even to this day, I'm not a good programmer. Like I used to have an idea and like, I could put together maybe a bash script, or if I do enough Googling, spend enough time, I could probably pull together like a Python script to do something that I want to do, but I've never been great at it. And I've usually partnered with like a friend and, asked them like, hey, I've got this idea. Can you help me make this into a tool? Um, and so like I've had to do that a lot, as a bug bounty hunter and someone who like is trying to get better at hacking. But now with AI being where it is, between ChatGPT and Cursor, and even some of the other tools like Lovable that can make front ends and make things beautiful and to work with, like I'm like 10 times more dangerous than I've ever been because now, I can produce these tools and scripts that I've never been able to actually make before. And so I think we're going to see that continue, not just on the white hat side, but on the black hat side. I think, if it's easy for us to do it, it's easy for criminals to do it too.
Exactly. Something like very interesting, at least you mentioned, and same you mentioned before, like what we were talking about maybe later, but the people don't realize something when we are working on this in the, we can say in the right side or maybe the white hack side. It's like maybe the crime was thinking about like 2 years ago, because these people like thinking always that one thing I believe like make you hacker is not the availability to do the script or something bash or something like that or whatever. It's the ability to think outside of the box. Then the ability to give you, at least in my point of view, the artificial intelligence is okay. You have one idea outside of the box, and do you want to learn about this topic? And the way to use artificial intelligence make you 10 times faster to learn about that to know if it's possible to create this exploitation or not inside of your idea. No, I don't know. You have the same approach.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I used to, like I mentioned, like I used to go to my friend and I'd be like, hey, I want to build this thing, and at first we start building it out, and like I understand it, it makes sense to me, right? But it gets to a point where like, okay, like this is outside my knowledge. Like I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer. So if I wanted to make tweaks and changes, like I would leverage him quite a bit, right? And ask for his help, or just I wouldn't use the tool anymore. And so, yeah. But now with AI being where it is, like I've been able to build a few tools that have already gotten me like 10K worth of bounties, just and very casually, like not actively, really aggressively hunting, just like, oh, I see that this is specific to a technology. I built a tool around. Like, cool. Let me fire my tool at it, and it works. And I'm like, okay, awesome.
It's really cool. But coming back to the conversation before to move forward, you was going to the school, and after the school, how was your professional career? Because I don't know, at least I don't know, at least in the United States, but here in Spain, it's not easy to find the first job in cybersecurity, and most of the people is entering into blue team to analyst of security analyst or something like that before to start in red teaming. But I don't know if your experience is something similar.
Yeah, so when I was in school, I tried to I've always been a community builder, and so like while I was in school, like I helped create the cybersecurity club and connecting with friends, and we were teaching each other all kinds of things like how to play with Burp Suite and whatever, because not all of our classes really covered everything we were interested in, and so we've continued to do these like side projects and stuff, and I think that's really important for someone who's listening. Like, don't just realize, just because you're in school or whatever, like that doesn't mean you can't go and explore additional things, right? Like you can figure out what you're interested in, and really go down that and supplement your learning with other things as well. And I also think that the power of networking and communicating with others really, really goes a very long way, especially in this industry. And so the more connections you can make during like, while you're in school, just the better it's going to be for you. But anyway, so I was getting very much involved with, the cybersecurity club. We helped start this thing called Cyber Oregon, which the whole concept behind that was to create cybersecurity resources for small businesses that couldn't afford them. And so we kind of helped kick that off the ground. I'm not sure if it's still a thing or not, but that was something that I kind of did as like an internship project type thing. And then when I got out of school, I started working at an MSP, and so I was doing like outsourced IT type stuff, anywhere from help desk related tasks to eventually moving more into like sysadmin, network administration, firewall deployments, server configs, things like that. Which I think was really powerful because it let me see a lot of different technology, and I got to get my hands dirty into a lot of different things. But I definitely feel like I stayed in a role like that for too long. I personally was there for like 4 years, and I think after 2 years, I probably learned as much as I really like could have. I mean, I definitely learned more, but by staying longer. But I don't know. Like at some point, I think if I had left after 2 years and pivoted into cybersecurity, like I would have just gotten into infosec a lot quicker. Whereas in that role, it's very traditional, just like IT type work.
And finally, something interesting here is like cybersecurity is like is a practice. More practice, better you are, because easy to find better bugs, easy to find more things. I have the same issue. My main job is like project manager, but I like to do bug bounty and I like to do weapon testing. But about sometimes I don't have time, and when I'm coming back to start to me my bug bounty and something like that for practice, I'm feeling rusty, right? I don't know if you have the same feeling.
100%, 100%. Like I have that problem all the time now, and I think that's actually why I really enjoy things like bug bounty or platforms that provide pen testing opportunities or whatever it is, because even if you end up in like management roles, or maybe you kind of pivot into like what I do now, which is more community management, it's not super technical work all the time. It kind of still lets you stay sharp, and you're doing bug bounty on the side, you're doing pen testing on the side, whatever. And so yeah, it's definitely one of those things where if you don't use it, you lose it. And even after like taking a couple months off, where I'm working on other things like managing the village at DEFCON or something like that, and then when I try to pivot back into like doing bug bounty, it always feels like for the first week or so, it's like trying to get back into the groove and remember how to use a mouse again. So
Pseudo APT.
it's really funny too, because like when I started at some point I started creating content. Like I've got a small YouTube channel and like a blog and stuff. And when I started doing all that stuff, um, it started out for me as like, okay, I would take notes. I learned about something like I was going through the OSCP track, and I would watch an IPSec video, and he would do this cool thing, and I would be like, oh, I need to remember that. So I would just kind of like write a note, and then later I would turn that into like how to use XYZ, how to use Hydra to brute force websites, like whatever the guide is that I learned. So I would make a blog post about it, so that way, instead of like having notes just locally on my computer, I could publish them on the internet, and maybe they'll help other people too. So that's kind of how like my blog started. And so I would do this, and then there'd be times where a year or two, 3 years later, whatever, I'm like running into something on a pin test. I don't remember how to I'm like, I don't know how to do this thing. So like I start Googling, and I would find my own blog post telling me how to do this thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like I wrote this. And it's hard to remember everything. There's too much information out there.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I have a friend. He say always it's impossible to know everything, and something funny you was mentioned, like Hack Tricks, the website. It's from a close person I know. It's Carlos Follow. He's Spanish. He's from Madrid, and Hat-Trick started in the same way, right? He was the personal note of him. This was a personal note of him, and created notes. And today it's a huge big site for the community, right? And sometimes when we're starting to do things on, you mentioned before, like, and I think it's very interesting, your side projects. That's create important, because when you are working for a company, when you left the company, you left your project. But if you are working in your side projects, like, it's always something with you, right? That's why I believe is interesting, and also why, or at least in my point of view, why bug bounty have sense, right? I don't know if you have the same approach to me or the same point of view.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think anyone who might be like trying to get into cybersecurity and maybe land their first, job or something, even just having your own blog or YouTube channel or whatever it is goes a really long way in helping you stand out and show and validate like you know what you're talking about. And I think a bug bounty profile is the same thing. Like if you have an account on HackerOne that shows you've got 1,000 reputation points and high signal and whatever, and you can use that as like a almost like a portfolio of your work, and when you're going to apply at a company, I think in a lot of ways that carries way more weight than even a certification does. And so at least as a hiring manager myself, I put more weight into something like that because it really proves like, okay, like you know how to do the thing. Like certifications kind of do that too, but that just more so proves you passed an exam or you played the game, and were able to achieve the thing in that game. Um, it, I'm comparing certain certifications to a game. I hope you understand.
Yeah,
um,
100%.
but yes, yeah, I think that there are ways to kind of leverage your almost like your brand that you're building as a way to land new opportunities and really kickstart your career. And I think that's, I don't know if that's unique to our world, but I do think that it is something that not every industry has, and we should take advantage of it.
And you bring something to the table like very, very interesting in that point because in the last podcast I was talking with Casey, I was talking with Jason, and one of the things like uh, today it's very common, or we can see often in and the DEFCON 32 with Jason where he was talking about the things happening in Bug Bounty and the position of the companies, because some companies, I understand the point of view of Casey, because you are in the man in the middle, you are handling the company, you are handling the people, and it's quite complicated, right? Then today many people are saying like, okay, bug bounty is a scam, and from my personal point of view, it's like depends of your approach, right? If it's a place where you want to make like 100K or 300K monthly, some people are selling courses saying you like, if you do my course, you're gonna make that money, right? And this is scam, but the scam is the technique for where that people is selling to you the way to or the approach to bug bounty. But if you use bug bounty as something like your site or something like, okay, I want to learn, or you something that was mentioned before at the beginning when you start working in IT help desk or something like that, and your side project is like, okay, I like to do bug bounty, because many times the companies give you the possibility to have the possibility to hack one company, right? Big companies like Siemens, like Coca-Cola, like Tesla, or whatever, right? That's I believe that's the right approach when you think, okay, I was working or I was practicing try hack me, hack the box or whatever, and now I want to move to the real world, because at least from my point of view, everything changed when you have a web application firewall. But I don't know. I want to know your opinion, because in your position, sure, you are handling it in the community many times, this kind of conversation, and I believe your point of view can be interesting, right?
Yeah, I think that the thing with bug bounty is that it has pros and cons for sure. Like as a researcher, it has pros and cons, and I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it's easy and that if you go and do a bunch of try hack me rooms that you're gonna go ahead and make 100K overnight in bug bounty. Like it's, in fact, it took me like probably 2 or 3 years of attempting bug bounty before I ever got my first paid bounty. So it's definitely like not simple or easy, but I think that there's a lot of information out there where people kind of just fall into the same pit holes. Like it's also not as complicated as I think a lot of people make it. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions around like what bug bounty really is. Like a lot of people like they might just think, oh, it's all recon or it's you got to find a 0 day, and it truly isn't that. I think that the more time you invest actually just manually poking around at things, the more opportunities that are going to pop up and display themselves to you. And I think we all get kind of stuck in the rabbit hole of, oh, I read this blog post that talked about this tool that you pipe with that tool and it can automate this thing, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to go spend a weekend trying to recreate that. And it's like, I don't know, like, is that really the best approach for you? Like, and I think everyone needs to do a lot of that to find out what works for them. Um, and so I think it takes time before you actually start to figure out, okay, what's success for me? Like what actually works for me? And then once you find that, you just have to scale it and do more of it. Um, but as far as like the scam side of things, like, you know, reports get mishandled. It happens. Or programs don't always see your impact or they have a different point of view. Like that's part of the game. And I think that getting frustrated and letting your emotions take over anytime your report's downgraded or a program doesn't see the impact that you do, I think that that's only going to frustrate you and burn you out. You've got to find a way to you submit the report, you think it's helpful, and if they find it helpful, you get paid. Like that's the world we're in. And if they don't find it helpful, like why would they pay for it? And so I think we can do our best to explain impact, try to show impact, and communicate. But truly, the thing that matters the most is your ability to communicate. If you can't communicate well, you're going to have a harder time in bug bounty because you have to show someone like why it's important to pay for the thing. Um, and so, anyway, I think there's pros and cons. You're going to have highs and lows. And so I think just managing the emotions is something that I think is really important.
Mhm. And but you broke my hair because my heart because I was thinking like it's only you send a nuclear template and that's it. It's working. That's why I bring Sandeep to another episode because he is the CTO of Nuclei, and I was thinking, okay, it's easy. Only I bring Sandeep here and I send the nuclear templates. But seems it's not working like that. But anyway, going a little bit back to your story because I believe it's very interesting. I want to know because you was thinking like for you it's important to make this community right, and that's make me feel like you are a person like you like to have friends. But I don't know if it was easy at the beginning for make friends at your country because many professional cybersecurity, many hackers, we are have this problem with the isolation, because not many people understand what we are doing because some people look us like a weird person, so weird people or something like that. I don't know if you have the same part of life.
100%. I mean, I think that I'm extroverted as a person. Like I want to have friends and I want to talk with people. But I'm also a really introverted person where I just kind of like want to stay to myself. I think a lot of us are this way. I think for me, I'm just really passionate about seeing people succeed and like helping people. And especially if you are like me and you think like me and you're interested in the things like I am, I want us to all kind of like learn and grow together. And so that's kind of what has driven me towards always trying to build community. Is I want to find someone who thinks like me that we can just kind of like level up together. You know what I mean? Because it's so much, I think, easier to stay committed and actually have fun when you're not just doing it all alone. And so that's why I think I was so driven to like find community. And when I wanted to pivot from being in general IT and become a pen tester, this was like 2019, and I just kind of decided like, it actually happened after my first time going to DEFCON. I went to DEFCON and I came back and super inspired about just being in that community and everything. And so when I got back home, I decided, okay, like if I'm going to become a pen tester, like it's going to be because I put in the work. Like it's not just going to happen. Like I have to do it. And so then that's when I started going down the OSCP track and creating content, just putting myself out there. But another thing that I think was very helpful is I started looking up for like local information security meetups that were near me. And so I found some communities in Portland, like one of them is called RainSec. We get together every month and we, just kind of meet up at a pub, drink beer and complain about work. But we're all like-minded people. And, when I first started going there, I was so dead set on becoming a pen tester. I would just kind of walk the room and I would, sit down next to someone and be like, oh, hey, what do you do? It's good to meet you. Oh, you're not a pen tester? Okay. I'd politely, leave and go and find the next person and be like, what do you do? Are you a pen tester? And until I found someone that was doing that thing that I wanted to do. And I just picked their brain all night long, asked them, how did you do it? Like, what resources did you use? And I just think you can really learn a lot from others. And there's so many people in the industry that are willing to help, that, yeah, we should take advantage of that.
And one of the things like coming to my mind is like, okay, you went to the DEFCON, you get crazy, and you have the decision to create the bug bounty village at DEFCON. And how this comes to your mind? Because I believe like I was trying to create a small but very small like I don't know the word now at the moment. Like when you find a lot of people like and you create this village, like this is crazy, like because I believe like a lot of work behind of the scenes to make the contact to the people, arrange everything, and if someone has some issue, you need to cover like can you tell me why you take this crazy decision? I
Well,
know it's for the money, but maybe the people want another approach.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's not like we don't make money really as a
Yeah,
village.
I know.
We raise sponsorship, but it pretty much all goes back into the village and making it happen. So it's very much like a volunteer effort. But it also didn't happen, that quickly where it's like, oh, I went to DEF CON and then I decided to create a village. And there was like, a 5-year gap, I would say, in between. And to be honest with you, when my co-founder Ariel, like when we applied to get the village at DEF CON, like we kind of just figured, hey, let's shoot. We had this idea. We're obviously community builders, and we're passionate about bug bounty and the hacker community as a whole. And we have a lot of connections because, we work at HackerOne, and so we know a lot of people. So we're like, let's shoot this in just to get it started. We figured maybe 2 to 3 years, if we apply consistently over the 2 to 3 years, maybe eventually they'll give us an interview or something and like say, hey, tell us more. But no, we applied last year, and that same application, they came back and they're like, we love your application, let's talk more about it. And it was just, I don't know, it happened very quickly. I think we kind of threw it in assuming it wasn't going to become a thing, and then it did. And I think that we nailed it that first year and pulled everything together in like a 3 month period. But the feedback we got was really good. So
Yeah, that's true. One of the things I was, because when you take this kind of decision, sometimes it's very risky, right? But the feedback of the people of the Bug Bounty Village was crazy. Like, so the people will love it, and I believe, like, because being honest today, like, we have these content creators talking about about Bug Bounty and about the way to make money and whatever. But we have more realistic people with a different approach, right? And I believe like the good thing of Bug Bounty is because we can say is a challenge, right? And it's the same challenge for everyone, right? And that's a beautiful thing, right? And this is why something that's very cool for the hackers is make the difference with another and try to fight with I am better hacker than you or something like that. But we know it's totally different because bug bounty is one side of cybersecurity because cybersecurity is very huge. But that's really cool. But anyway, I was reading the feedback and the people love it, right? That's my feeling, no?
well, I think the thing was is like I'd gone to DEFCON every year since 2019, and when I would go, it was clear that like there were so many different communities, so many different like niches within the niche of cybersecurity. Um, but like bug bounty itself didn't really have a home. Like I guess we could kind of like be a part of Recon Village, we could kind of be a part of AppSec Village, but it really didn't fit tightly into either of those things. Like it really felt like it needed its own place. And so that's why we were like, well, let's shoot it in and see what happens, because we figured, if we feel this way, there's got to be thousands of others that feel this way too. It turns out I think we were right, and people seem to really appreciate it, and I think it's great because I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome, like I think many of us do, and so trying to create content or create things completely from scratch on my own is very hard for me, because it's like the doubt kicks in. It's like, how am I going to create something that anyone's going to find value in, right? And I think Bug Bounty Village has really helped me a lot because it doesn't feel like I'm doing it alone. Like it's a community effort. It's not me, and so I can lean on the capabilities of people who want to volunteer, come in and speak, and it's truly like this like team effort to make something happen that provides value to the community. And I found that it's helped me a lot in that way.
And also in a way like a human, right? Because the possibility to force yourself to achieve these challenges, because the people, same, I mentioned you before, the people doesn't understand how complicated can be created these kind of events, right? And like from your perspective, like a human, from the human side, like, and the same you mentioned before, like you like to help other people, like this feeling can be incredible, right? And that's what bring me to the next question is like, we understand we will have DEFCON Village next year, right? And you are working on it at the moment, or
Yes.
how
Yes.
how, how long do you need to prepare the whole year, or
I mean, pretty much. So last year was our first year doing it, and we found out that we were approved in like around this time last year. So like this time last year, we didn't even have a logo or anything. And so we truly had like a 3 month period to pull it off. And it was a ton of work because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes with, okay, like creating a floor plan and renting furniture and setting up how you want things to look, and then reaching out to speakers and asking them to submit a CFP, and then reviewing the CFP, and then scheduling all the talks, and a ton of logistics around shipping and receiving swag and making sure things get there. Like there's so much stuff that happens that I think a lot of people just really don't realize or think about. And of course, we go down the rabbit hole of, well, what else can we do? What else can we do? And it's like, well, let's create these custom Blinky badges and give those away. Well, well, to do that, we have to find a vendor. Okay, how do we find a vendor? And then like, well, now we need to find a sponsor to pay for the thing. And so it just kind of like spirals. Um, and so we do all that, and I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish last year. And then it really felt though like, in addition to our full time jobs and everything else, it was like when it was over with, I almost felt like I don't know what to do with my time anymore. It's like it was pretty crazy. But then it was kind of nice to disconnect and focus on other things like bug bounty for once. um, and then we took a few months off, but then I would say we really hit the ground running again, starting in like January, February, and we've been investing a ton of time ever since, just consistently on weekends and evenings, and trying to get things ready for this year. But I think we're in a much better spot, hopefully this year, to make it not so stressful, because we're further along this year than we were last year.
Exactly. I hope so. Maybe I hope you don't have a heart attack or something like that. You are keeping calm a little bit more calm than the last time. But that's bring me to the one important point, because the people don't realize how important is the communication today, right? Many people is like thinking, okay, I want to be hacker, I want to be like, but the people don't understand how important can be the communication, and something like for you is normal or regular, for someone is something new. That brings to us to the same point of before, right? Maybe for you, like CCRF or XSS, this something like that, it's new for you, or not new, or like something you are seeing every day. But for someone, it's new, and the way to explain, the way you communicate that, and not only that, the way to create community and everything, I believe is something like very precious, and we don't need to lose that availability. Then I believe that you are doing a very great job, and thank you very much for this, for the community, because it's you and your partner, of course, and all the people from DEFCON, because that can be incredible, right? And coming back a little bit from the perspective for the communication, like for me, it's important also the personal brand and marketing today, because the people don't realize how important can be for when you are going to find a new job, or you are going to find new opportunities. And your work finally in HackerOne is community manager, right? Or that, from your perspective, like how important can be this kind of topic, like more in communication skills and express yourself on social media and about that.
Honestly think I wouldn't have gotten the job at HackerOne had I not had, some sort of online presence already. They haven't told me that, but I do think it helped me. And I know definitely I've gotten opportunities elsewhere because of, what I've done on my blog and my YouTube channel. Like 100% people have found me because of that. Or when I'm talking with someone about a potential pen test opportunity, for example, like my very first pen testing gig, like when I actually was trying to become a pen tester, I was, just networking, putting myself out there, creating all this content. And I found my first internship through Reddit, actually. I was on Reddit in the OSCP subreddit, helping somebody with a question they had, because I was also going through the OSCP. And while I was in there was someone who had posted saying, "Hey, I'm starting my own pen testing company. I'm looking for an intern." And so I jumped on that opportunity. And I think because I had all this other stuff that they could just kind of like look at as almost a portfolio, I think that really helped me be selected as the person for that. And, that initial foot in the door experience just turned into a career, of pen testing afterwards, and later, turned into what I do now at HackerOne. Um, but I think if you're not putting yourself out there, and you don't even necessarily need to build a brand with the sense of like, I want to monetize a brand and sell merch and do all these things. Like, you don't even need that. Like, just, I think really the power is putting yourself out there in a way to help others. And just naturally, when you're being selfless like that, the universe has a way of returning the favor. At least that's what I found.
That's something we believe, right, in the karma and this kind of thing, right? And something like I like to, I believe you are a right person for make this question. Is like sometimes I think, okay, what we read at the future if we are thinking bug bounty, because we was talking about artificial intelligence, and have incredible tools today like Expo, another one, like where you can do also pen testing, like automatic pen testing or something like that for bug bounty. And from your perspective, someone is like daily handling these kind of things, like in the community, reading articles, sharing information with other people, and you are getting a lot of input. And what is your perspective for the future of bug bounty?
I mean,
Like
just
using artificial intelligence, because I believe
yeah.
it's the disruptive part of today, right?
I mean, literally just today I was looking at the leaderboard on HackerOne, and I think Expo was like number one in the past 30 days for the US, and then I think top 5 globally. Like, it's crazy. What they're doing at Expo is amazing. It's really great to see. Um,
For
I think
someone,
that's
sorry, Harley, if someone doesn't know, Expo is artificial intelligence can do pen testing, like AI automatic pen testing. We can say, I will try to bring here the creators to do a podcast anyway. But
you
anyway,
should. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, the founding team behind Expo are just a bunch of brilliant people. They've done a lot of crazy things already, and now they created the Expo, and they brought in some really talented bug bounty hunters, and they're all kind of collaborating together to make this autonomous AI system that, um, you know, I haven't seen it in a few months, but the last time I saw it, it was like you point at a target and you give it like a natural language prompt, and it goes out and it just hacks the thing and tries to find bugs, and it does it successfully. It's really impressive, and it's getting better, it seems. So yeah, I think those guys are really doing a lot of crazy stuff, and I think that we're only going to see more and more of that. And I think the term hackbots and AI agents and stuff like that is only going to become more and more popular as time goes on. That's a world that personally I haven't played around in. I don't know a ton about, but I do think it's going to become more and more prevalent. Similar to how we've seen a lot of bug bounty hunters do automation and find, a lot of bounties through automation and then kind of like running the leaderboards in a lot of ways. I think we're going to start to see more and more hackbots pop up that do those things. Um, to people who don't want to build, hackbots and automation, I still think that there's a really awesome opportunity for us, because, like I said earlier, I've got all these ideas. I've got a million ideas of like things I want to build or tools I want to create, but I just don't have the time or knowledge to really do it. And it's like now I'm 10 times more dangerous than I've ever been because I can leverage AI to help me and kind of be like my partner in crime when it comes to building out things that I can then use to be better and more efficient at bug bounty. Whether it's a quick Python script to do a thing, or I've had it help me build some Burp Suite extensions before to do a thing. Like, I think it's really, really powerful in that way if you start using it and thinking about it in that way. Um, I also think that we're living in a time where tons of people that don't know anything about writing code are pushing and creating like SaaS platforms that they vibe code in. And I think that's only going to like introduce a world of bugs that hopefully those things turn into bug bounty programs, and it just becomes the golden era of bug bounty where you know AI is creating all kinds of vulnerabilities for us to find. So we'll see.
But the good thing, that's a great idea. But at the same place, or I have the idea. Okay, some people is creating software, but another people is creating software like web applications or SaaS, same you mentioned before. But in the same way, other people is creating this security application like Xpo and other ones, right? Because also today in Nuclei you have AI, and you can do like natural language and create the template for you. That's pretty cool. And more companies it's appearing here. Agonetics, I believe, is creating a new AI. Another companies is using, I believe, Sneak is doing the source code reviewing using AI. But the main problem often in the AI is like the lateral thinking. We can say, okay, when you have the problem, like the typical like problem with authorizations, this kind of problem when you don't need to have access because the code is perfect, and if you send something like there to do like the scanning, everything is right, okay, but you didn't realize like the other place you can do something like that, right? That's why I believe like artificial intelligence today, it's leaking a little bit of professionality, we can say. But I believe in the future, this like we can think also like 2 years ago where we was where with ChatGPT and where we are today, right? And that's crazy. But the point of view, at least from my perspective, is what's going to happen with all these bug hunters or these pen testers, right? I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think that I understand the concern of like, you know, there's going to be all these other AI based tools that make security better, and I think that's true. But I think also like if we look at the history, you know, technology has always moved much faster than the pace of security, right? And so I think we're going to continue to see, you know, if there's 10 new apps that are being built, I think that even if there's like 10 new cybersecurity companies or cybersecurity related AI technologies that get created, there's probably going to be 100 apps that get built in addition to that. And so I think it's always going to have this like effect where, I don't know, I'm not really too worried about there not being enough bugs, like, or, security getting to the point where it's so good that it prevents all bugs. I mean, I hope we do get there. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? Like, we want a world where that exists and people are safe, but in reality, I don't think that that's ever going to happen. It might mean that the types of vulnerabilities and techniques and things like that, those are going to change for sure. And we're going to have to adapt, but I don't know. I don't think that we're going to enter a place where, these AI capabilities are completely replacing our pen testers and our bug bounty hunters. I think if anything, they're going to eliminate maybe some bug classes and tools like Expo, companies like Expo, they're going to be able to, probably get really good at whatever it is that they're good at. And maybe, yeah, there's going to be a lot less of that to find in a bug bounty program. And then that leaves more opportunity for people to be creative and, do what they do best. And maybe where Expo misses things, that's where other hunters have opportunities to, get better at and accelerate it. So I don't know. I think times are changing and the landscape is changing. But I have confidence that like we're still important. Like humans are still important. We're gonna have a place.
And something I believe, always I get my point. Like, okay, if something happens wrong, for example, you are using this AI and you turn off all the company because you have an issue or something like that. Who gonna be there? Who gonna have the responsibility there? Like, this is important. Now today we are thinking, okay, the company, but this is autonomous AI working, right? And that's a problem that happens before with the cars. And Tesla solved the problem. It's like before of the accident, 1 second before, turn off the artificial intelligence, and the problem wasn't the driver, right? It's very, very bad decision from my perspective, but this something happens. But I don't know. Today we are having this, right? Because when you are sending your bugs to platform like HackerOne, like Integrity or whatever, always you have a person behind. But what's gonna happen when something happens with AI autonomous? And who's gonna have the responsibility about that? That's a main point, at least from my perspective. Like, it's a hard point because in cybersecurity, finally, everything comes from the perspective of confidence. Like, okay, I trust on you, you trust on me, and something like that. But what's gonna happen with AI? Who have the power, who knows, like, this AI is not creating bugs and sending the bugs to another person, right? Or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always the responsibility of the operator. Like it, this isn't new in the sense that like automation has already been a thing. Like there's people that have built out crazy automation frameworks that automate finding bugs and writing them up and sending them in. Like that's not new. That's been happening for years. And so, but the idea behind safe testing and having a program policy that has very explicit scope and like what is allowed, what's not allowed, like people who write automation are still expected to stay in scope, still expected to follow the rules. And if they don't, they're responsible for what it is that their automation did. And I think AI and hackbots and all that, like they still have rules that they're going to have to follow, and that the operators behind these tools are going to have to make sure that they build these solutions and build these tooling in a way where it can meet and fit into these constraints. Because at the end of the day, like pen testing and bug bounty and everything, like it only works because the system is built on trust and permission, right? Like the only thing that sets us different from black hats are we have permission. And I think if we start to create environments where we don't respect that boundary anymore, then I think it can harm the industry as a whole. And I'm not saying, like, obviously I know black hats don't care about scope. Like, criminals don't care about what the program policy says, right? But if we actually want to continue to move the industry forward and make the bug bounty ecosystem welcoming of AI and hackbots and all of that, I do think that there's some level of expectations on both sides and how we can build a framework that everyone's playing by the same rules.
And something you say something very, very interesting. Like, finally, everything it's because we want something safer than before, right? And that's not the main focus on many companies, because many companies is doing security by compliance, only for follow the laws, and that's it. But for you and I, because we know about this war a little bit, and the thing is, that was, I think, like, I want my mom can be safe. No one steal the data or something of my mom or my girlfriend or whatever, right? For me, that's important point. And at the same speed we are moving forward we can say in the white hat, the black hat is moving faster than us, because also have more resources, have more money, and it's difficult for everything, for everyone. And this same you mentioned, like, finally we need people behind, right? And I hope the companies can understand that and put more people behind and understand how important can be bug bounty. And not only bug bounty, we can say pen testing for the companies, or weapon testing, or whatever, because finally cybersecurity today is more important, because everyone have information in the internet, everyone have a picture in the internet, everyone have all the life in the internet, because insurance, banks, and whatever is in the internet. That I believe, like, it's coming very difficult times, and bug bounty is, like, maybe not the solution, but at least one of the solutions for the thing. And before to start, you make me the question, like, you have some questions prepared or something like that. I said I have a special question for you, and this is the special question, and I hope you are so brave and you can answer my question. Like, for your perspective, what is the best country for bug bounty? The country with better bug hunters?
Sorry, ask it again.
Like, for your perspective, what do you believe is the country with the best bug hunters?
The country with the best bug
Yeah,
hunter?
country, the country. Yeah.
Well, that's real. See, it's easy for me to answer this, right? Because HackerOne does the Ambassador World Cup, and so we're actually about to enter the finals. Finals are kicking off. This has been a year-long tournament. If you're not familiar, the World Cup is this year-long tournament where we have 60 brand ambassadors from across the world, and they all have clubs that they have created and brought in bug bounty hunters, and they basically compete against each other in various rounds. And so we're now at the finals. Everything's coming to an end, and it's Egypt against Spain. Last year, Spain was the winners. So I'm very, very excited to see who's going to win this year. I'm not going to put any money down on the podcast here because I don't want to. I've got friends on both teams, but definitely, it's been impressive to see the work that everybody's been able to do.
Yeah, I make you this question because, as you know, I am a Spaniard, and that's funny for us, right? Because like, Spain is this very small country, but the level of hacking is crazy here. Because you were saying, like, OSCP or something like that. Here the people is super competitive with that, right? And many people have OSCP, like, many people have certifications, many people is working in bug bounty, and here we have a strong community. But that's something it's very, very good for us, and I believe it's good for because it's very interesting for a small country. Like, many people believe Spain is paella and siesta and and party, and be something like something that people are that guys are doing with the Spanish brand. And for HackerOne, from my perspective, is incredible. Like, and I'm, like, very, very, I know most of them, and that's crazy. And thank you very much for your words, because I hope can the people understand where is Spain today in cybersecurity. And I don't know if you know, but Virus Total is a Spanish company also.
Who is? Sorry?
Virus Total. The name is Virus Total. Like, where this Spanish company is like from Bernardo Quintero. He's a Spanish guy. He in Malaga, and today here in Malaga, he's creating a huge company. So many cybersecurity companies creating there. Like maybe someday I see you in Malaga because have a very good weather, and I hope so. Harley, it was a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I really enjoyed that time. And I don't know if you want to say something in the last minutes.
No, I mean, I just thank you for having me on the channel and on the podcast. I hope that we provided some value to your listeners here in this past hour. And yeah, I just also hope if you guys are at DEFCON, please come by the Bug Bounty Village. Hope to see you there, and would love all the feedback. Let me know if you got some value out of that too.
And thank you very much. And I hope to see you someday in DEFCON, or who knows.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you know where to find me. I'll be there.
Yeah, but I was checking the tickets, and it's crazy expensive. Right?
They're just getting more and more expensive. I think it's like $100 more just for the DEFCON badge this year than it was.
Yeah,
last
but only I was checking the tickets for flight tickets, from Spain to there.
Yeah.
And only the tickets is like 1,200 euros, right? Only the flight tickets, and that's. But maybe someday I'm gonna find some sponsor. I put the link below. Someone can be interesting. Thank you very much, Harley.
Just got to get a bounty or two, and that'll cover your trip.
I hope so. Bye, man.
See ya. Thanks.